areas all at once.
Yes, that's right. But one thing I ran into, because I like to do a lot of focus stacking, and when I was shooting this morning, it was like absolutely dead still at 7:30 this morning. And focus stacking is great. However, the whole time I was there, the wind never stopped, even when I got up early in the morning. And I was told that's because the way the tides work, you don't really get a real still time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was gorgeous.
So you mentioned you were in Oregon and Washington State?
Yeah, we went down to Cannon Beach and just drove around through some of those big bridges across the Columbia River and so forth.
Right. Yeah, I saw a couple of pictures in your photo stream, so I knew you were out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's in the West Coast. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just well, south of me, but a fair bit south of me.
Yep. We were up close to the Canadian border, and next year we're actually going to be in Vancouver. So,
oh, cool. Well, let me know when you're coming through.
I will definitely. Yeah, we're going to take a train ride from somewhere. My wife's got it all planned out.
Yeah, they have a wonderful train that goes across the Rocky Mountains here. That's quite a spectacular thing to do.
Yeah, we're going to get the one with that's got this clear the ceiling at the top and everything. So
Rocky Mountaineer.
Okay,
I think that's the name of it. Yeah.
It's a far trip, I think, huh?
It's I don't think it's so long. I mean, it goes from, I believe, Calgary to Vancouver, so it's a couple days, 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, but in America, it is nothing.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you can drive it.
I've heard they go for a cup of coffee when you visit from east to west. It's maybe 12 hours. They say I go drink coffee.
Yeah. Well, there's always funny stories about the tourists from Germany who decide that they're going to a wedding in Vancouver, so they fly into Toronto a couple days ahead because they're going to just drive across and see the country. That's like an 8-day drive or so.
No kidding. Yeah.
But here in Holland, it's different. The country, the width is maybe 200 kilometers, so it's nothing. In your opinion, it's nothing. But when something is 20 or 30 kilometers away, they say no, that's too far.
Yeah, I once was in Holland for the summer, and I on a weekend, my friend and I, we decided we would drive down to Paris, and people thought we were insane because how can you drive so long for just such a short period of time? It's not so far.
I've never been in Paris with my car, but it's only 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would be cool too, if you ask me. Just have 6 hours away to Paris.
We did no planning, so we ended up sleeping in the car overnight, and it was a bit of just 20-year-olds kind of just striking out without much planning. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you need currency. Oh, okay. Let's get it at the border gas station where they have a great rate.
Yeah, we were in Israel, and we had one of my wife's colleagues gave us a tour around Israel. So we were all over the place in one day. Yeah. We're from the southern tip to the northern tip. So let's see. Now I'm still reeling on stuff, but what have you guys been shooting?
Not too much. My camera's broken.
Oh no!
What's happened to it?
Yeah, I don't know. There was one button where the lens is fixed normally, but this was not working any longer. So I went to Nikon, and they said, "Well, you have to leave it here for 2 weeks."
Oh gosh! Well, that's someone telling you need a backup camera, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Scotland, and I had my trusty 24 to 120 zoom lens, Nikkor zoom lens, got stuck at 120, and then would not budge. And I ended up going to a camera store there in Edinburgh, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, you got to send it to the lens to Nikon. It's going to take weeks to get back." So I went ahead and dropped like $400 on a used 28 to 300 zoom lens, which worked okay. It's a little bit softer, but yeah, there's no quick turnaround with Nikon.
No.
And it's not cheap generally either, because I've also got a 14 to 24 wide angle that the lens hood broke on it. and it's not like it's not a detachable lens hood. But I thought it'd just be a piece of plastic I could order. Nope, it's going to take several weeks, and it's going to cost $700
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
to get it
Yeah,
back. So,
I don't know. I have some guarantee because it's in the guarantee now, but
oh, that's
maybe
good.
they're going to give me the bill as well. I don't know, but we will
Um,
see.
but back to your question about what have I been shooting? I mean, it's been actually a really interesting couple of weeks because I've been just going out and shooting lots of stuff from gardens, macro photography, street photography, concert photography, some stuff in between. And I bought a new camera, so I'm
Oh
also
no.
shooting with a different
Okay.
camera. So that was been good. That's been
And
fun.
what did you buy?
I bought a Nikon ZF.
Okay.
Oh,
But you know that but I don't have any Nikon. Well, the only Nikon lens I have for it is about 60 years old. So I'm just shooting it. I bought it because it's quite competent for shooting with manual glass, and you can use a lot of the kind of focus confirmation wizardry, which is pretty incredible in it, to get focus confirmation when you're shooting manually too, with just like a lens that doesn't communicate with the camera. So I've been having a hoot with it. It's
So you have an adapter or something?
Yeah, there's a TT Artisans make so they make there's lots of different adapters. You can mount it. Well, you would know because you have Nikon cameras. You
Yeah.
can mount pretty much anything to it. But the particular adapter will trick the camera into thinking I have a chipped lens when in fact I don't. So like the lens that's on here right now, that's like a 60 millimeter like a macro lens from an R system. So it's like from the 80s or something,
Oh,
but it works really wonderfully. And
but
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and so on one of the macro shots I got of a bee, I discovered that not only does a bee have the two eye structures, but it has three eyes in between that it uses to gauge light
yeah.
changes. So I hadn't quite seen that before with my bee macros, and now I am seeing that. So yeah,
So
so it's
maybe the
cool.
autofocus is not working, I think.
Well, there is the autofocus is my hand,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which but what's really quite nice about it is that it's actually quite the process is pretty smooth and it's like got a nice flow to it. So I can just kind of walk up to like this is aster season here in
Oh
Vancouver.
yeah.
So I walk up to an aster bush where there's just bees everywhere, and I'm just able to kind of have all kinds of fun and take away quite a few images that are pretty interesting. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
asters
having a
are
hoot
good
with
for
it.
the bees because they lay on top of it. They don't get buried inside of a bunch of curling
Yeah,
petals.
and you get all these interesting stackings. You see,
Mhm.
you get three or four coming at once for the pollen. But it's been kind of interesting. I mean, it's very different to shoot with it. So there's some things I like shooting with it, some things I don't. But for like I was also using it for some concert photography and such, and so it's been just kind of fun exploring a new body to shoot with.
So welcome to our family of Nikon, eh?
Well, I shot with a Coolpix years ago.
Yeah.
One of those little swivel
Yep.
guys. So I've shot with Nikon before, but yeah, this is fun. I love that there's so much flexibility mounting different glass to bodies now. So at some point I might get an autofocus Nikon lens, but so far I haven't. So I'll get there eventually, perhaps.
Mhm.
Well, if you with autofocus, you take it with your hand. If you do it macro, usually it works best to use your head.
Yeah. So I'm using the lean technique.
Yeah, lean.
Yeah,
And
and,
if
and it's working pretty well so far.
yeah, and if with bees moving quickly, you just hold down your shutter, so rapid fire, and do the same thing, and you're going to be. You'll even be able to like maybe antenna or out of focus. You can then layer in the in focus antennas, which is kind of like focus stacking,
Yeah.
but that works as well.
Yeah, and I also got on this adapter, so I can also mount basically an extension tube with a helicoil or helicoid, well, to kind of give me a little bit more extension, so I can move from 1 to 1 to 1 to 2 quite easily. And again, it just is really flexible, and I can just use the helicoil to do the focusing as opposed to the focus on the camera
Now
or on
I've
the
had
lens.
trouble with the extension tubes on my Z9,
Hmm.
and what happens is I have a vignette of out of
Yeah.
focusness.
Yeah, that happens to me as well.
Never got that with extension tubes with my DA50 or any other previous. So I think that's because the back element of the lens is much closer to the sensor.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's been fun.
Yeah. It's always fun to get a new camera. So yeah,
Last Friday, I have been to a fair with photographers who are selling their work. So there was was in Amsterdam. There was 30 or 40 photographers, and they all sell their work, mostly young people. But it was interesting to see how this is working. I've never been in a fair like that, but all the photos were on walls in a factory, yeah, kind of factory it was, and one man was organizing it from a stock bureau, I think. But everybody had to pay 2,500 for
Get a
selling
photo.
their pictures there.
well, that's some overhead there.
Yeah. So every photo was more or less 2,000, 3,000.
Did it look like people were buying?
It was not so very, there were not so many people on Friday. And I noticed that there were, uh, how do you say, reviews for photographers as well. So you can talk about your photos if you want. So I gave it myself as well for the next Saturday.
Ah,
But now I've been there on Saturday as well, and I showed my pictures about the series about
Mhm.
being in a hurry, and now about quietness. And I talked to a photographer who was retired now. Uh, he uh, he sold all his photos to magazines, and yeah, in actually 20 years ago, he did a lot of work in Holland. He was from the States, from New York. I don't know why and how, but he had a lot of work for magazines like yeah, you have here Elsevier, or you have here
Mhm.
Volkskrant, AP de Tijd, and things like that. But at the end, I asked him, "What can I do with it?" And he said, "I don't know." I said, "The market is so bad that everybody is getting everything from internet, and everything is now uh, stolen from each other." So I said, "If I worked now in this day, I couldn't sell anything," he said.
Hmm.
So
yeah, trying to
actually, he
sell
gave
your
me a tip
stuff.
to search for maybe for writers or for magazines in this kind of material I am in, and then maybe make a connection. That's an idea of, or maybe if you want to have a affair by yourself or something, then make your connection uh, yourself by people, not going on the internet and go and find out everywhere where you where they want to sell your product.
Mhm.
It was nice to see because you speak a lot of photographers as well.
Yeah.
And, some people do more or less the same, not too much, but there are people. There was one photographer I was interested in. He made photos in the street, and I do sometimes with movement, but he did something with glass in front of his lens.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I can show you the pictures later if you want. I can do it now if you want.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying to sell your work, that's a whole nother ballgame. I mean, that's as much work as
yeah,
taking as shooting it.
yeah.
But probably more. Everyone,
Yeah.
advises if you want to make money at this, you have to,
Yeah, especially if you really want to
business
hustle.
sense. Yeah.
Things like this.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. So he's like smearing. He's got some that's kind of obscured a little bit.
Okay, there was Vaseline involved, do you think, or was this
No,
just
I asked
dry
him.
lens?
He just had glass in front of his lens, but I asked him as well what he did for his job. He was in the film industry, so I think he said to me as well that he used a program for film to make these colors.
Hmm.
Mhm.
No, that's really cool. Very
Yeah.
dreamy.
And I like his pictures, but I don't think it's too difficult to do it.
Well, no, and just the active kind of throwing it into that soft focus with, and what it's also doing, the colors there. I mean, it gives a really interesting aesthetic, right from the get-go. But no, that's cool.
Yeah. And also, if you do something like this, it's really easy to retouch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just yeah, make the colors pop up, and then
Yeah. Because people aren't going to be looking for realistic colors. They're going to be looking more pleasing. Something's going to, drive their imagination.
But there is a reason why there are a lot of filter companies continue to sell because you can create some really interesting effects through different filters, through different treatment like that. And capturing it in the camera is quite different than doing it in post.
yeah.
No, these are really something.
Yeah. Somehow, Jan, I have a feeling you are probably going to acquire some of that glass. That looks like it's right up your alley.
Well, and it's kind of like I've done some, and several folks have been sharing with Weekly, like shots through screens and things like that. It
Mhm.
creates such an interesting effect. I mean, I'm always shooting through fences, into glass, playing with reflections, and oh, I've got a big bit of sun coming in on me now, so I get some nice diffraction over here. And I love the effects you get, and it also kind of suddenly creates this other surface against which you can image, which is kind of fun.
Uh, this here are other photographers. Let me see.
I was trying to use some motion blur, like those dahlia gardens, because it was windy and the big blossoms were just bouncing around like that. And no matter what I tried, it did not work out like I wanted, and especially nothing worth sharing.
Right.
I was kind of disappointed in it because I have had some good luck with some motion blur like that. But man, I sure couldn't get it to work this past weekend.
Okay.
No, those are really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of accidentally was experimenting a bit with motion blur last night. I was down in I was out to a show, and it was down in Chinatown here, and I stumbled across a fire dragon festival. So they had this large kind of dragon body that they had created, and they had covered it with these big incense sticks. And there were, a couple hundred people there, lights and everything. It was a beautiful and interesting scene. But I was shooting that, and I was using my camera set at f4, and I wanted to go with higher ISO, but I had not locked my shutter down, so it was drifting down to about, like 40 1/40th of a second, 1/30th of a second, which generally worked because most people were not moving around so much. But the pictures aren't quite as, any movement in there, of course, is a bit accentuated because of that. But it actually creates an interesting effect all told. But I just keep kicking myself because I really should have locked the shutter down when I was doing that. Then it would have worked a bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite difficult to have the right movement,
Well,
to
it's
find out what shutter you need.
Yeah,
So
and I mean it's easier in, like, I was trying it the other day too at another show. There was one person in the middle of a dance floor where people were dancing, one person was standing still. So I was trying to get that, but there was too much light in the room. But in this other case, it actually worked out reasonably well. It was a 28 millimeter lens. I can hold it to about a 30th of a second, or actually even half that if need be. But any movement there was, in a darker situation, you get a little bit more of a dreamy effect.
Yeah.
so long as that works with your subject.
Yeah. Actually, for that, I was interested in this photographer because he just uses his normal shutter speed,
Hmm.
uh, and you get a dreamy effect.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's worth to find out, I think. Maybe with some neon effect or with some on a tripod, I think.
Well, I often shoot with a neutral density filter. Like if I'm
Yep.
taking out a fast lens during the brightness of the day,
Yeah,
I still want to shoot at f1, f
yeah,
1.4. But
yeah.
then if you have a three or four stops knocked down from the neutral density
Yeah,
filter, you can actually get some really dreamy
that's
effects.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think it
sometimes
was,
get a bit of hue coming from it if you don't get it quite set right, but it actually works quite well.
yeah. But it's speaking to me because you do something different than somebody else, huh? So it's not a normal picture what you're making. It's just something different.
Yeah.
yeah, I think generally it's best with motion blurs. Oftentimes it's best to have a dark background, or at
Mhm.
least darker than what your subject is.
Yeah, not too much
Otherwise, it
light.
gets lost in the blur
Yeah,
of the brightness.
yeah. The light is bad for motion blur. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was shooting one thing I shot was I was of course in the upper northwest, and there was I was at Cannon Beach, which is like famous for the movie Goonies. Apparently, that was shot at the Goonies, and it's got this big rock. It's a big volcanic rock, and I was getting sunset shots, and I got some decent shots with my tripod, and as well as handheld. But I was able to get some kind of motion blur combination combined with like sharp images, sharp elements. But it's kind of unpredictable. So I was having good luck
Mm.
with that. I was really disappointed when I was at that dahlia farm. And later on, I'm trying to find my triple ran Cannon Beach.
Yeah, I think I've been to Cannon Beach. It's quite beautiful. There's
Yeah,
some really amazing stretches of beach where you have these rock structures
yeah,
um, off the shore. Amir often is showing us some nice shots down by Oregon, and there's some beautiful beaches down there.
yeah. And there was and I got a really good, I think a really good sunset shot, and had people in the foreground, but they're kind of blurry. But of course, the rocks and the sunset looks absolutely sharp. So I was really good luck with that. So the next day, I tried another sunset shot, and there's these two rocks that are like pillars. So I moved way over to the left to try to frame the sunset between those two pillars, but I had to be closer to the seashore. I didn't have people in the foreground. So it was, even though that was an interesting shot, it was much less interesting without those people walking around in
Mhm.
front.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It gives
landscapes
some
with
depth
people are,
mostly.
yeah, they give the human scale to the scene too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it gives you depth, huh? I think I know for Ernst Haas as well, huh? He did a lot of Ernst Haas. He did a lot of work like this as well with
Mm.
movement. But this was an old photographer in the 60s and the 70s, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Oh, and I had this great shot lined up with with this family, three people, a little boy, but there was the woman was holding an orange bucket, and the sun was coming through with that bucket. But as soon as I got lined up, she never held that bucket up again. That's typical of me doing street photography. I'm always like 2 seconds.
Too late.
Yeah,
You have to wait for your shot, huh?
yeah,
And
Well, then
some
you always
people go back to the same place a lot of times, and then it's not
yeah,
there.
yeah. Or you discover the shot you didn't see that you got when you bring the pictures out and you go, oh, well, that's interesting.
yeah.
Shot first and think later.
Exactly. Here I can I'll show you some of that fire. Let's see, do I have a couple of that? Yeah, here I can show you a couple of that if you guys want.
Yeah.
A second here. Let me do this. Oh, there we go. So this is on the way there, but this is an example of you're thinking about this with the one that you shared, Jan, with with through glass. This is through glass, but it's a broken
Yeah,
glass, and there's an image behind, and then there's a reflection
yeah,
on there as well. So it just has all kinds of fun stuff going on. And then this is they were getting ready
Yeah.
to light that dragon in the background. So I was just taking some shots of the people.
yeah. Actually, when you shoot through glass, you can do it in a lot of different ways. You
Yeah,
can go to sit in your car and make a shot of outside, even when it's raining. Or you can hold the glass in your hand, or you
yeah.
can go to a shopping window and shoot through that, or go inside the shop. You can do it on different ways, in
Yeah,
different
and
ways.
the reflection, either lighting through or catching the reflection from all of those things offer
Yeah,
potential. But the other thing that was cool here is there's all this harsh lighting coming from behind or in front of me
Oh,
or
yeah.
from the side. So
yeah.
yeah, and I've barely touched these. I've just I did some cropping, but that's it. Oh, and then there's a club that I went to. But anyways, so it's
Ah, well
just
done.
wonderful wandering out.
Let's see
But
if I
the
can.
first shot was a really nice shot. Jeff.
Yeah, I like it. A couple weeks back, I shared a picture of kind of an interesting building with a work of art, like a big photograph on one end of it in really high contrast. That's on the other side of that building. So it's part of the same complex.
Yeah. But you use it as well a lot, as shooting through glass and through windows and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much potential. I mean, a really fun thing to do, I find, is like sometimes I'm shooting through a window because there's something interesting inside, and then you get the reflection of the lights and the cars adding to the scene. And I shared one once in Weekly where, like, I was taking a picture of a skull, which is a carpet on the ground, and then I caught a guy in reflection walking through, but stepping right on the skull. So
Yeah.
you get these juxtapositions of two different spaces that come together, and the window pane becomes your canvas, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it depends a lot where you're standing. If
Well,
you're,
and it's luck and timing, but reflective surfaces are wonderful that way because if you just kind of look for them, and then hang out for a minute and just kind of look around when you're there, you can often see other things that
Yeah.
yeah,
come up.
yeah,
Yeah. Cover your
Starlighter is
bases.
famous for this. Starlighter.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. And his stuff is so beautiful. And we were talking about, like taking like so many of his shots are through windows, and he's doing that in part to just kind of, get this kind of painted color that's,
Yeah,
partially distorted or there's condensation.
yeah.
He had such a wonderful sensibility.
I've seen an interview with him. He said, "When it's going to rain, I go outside."
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing
He
I've wanted
likes
to do.
he liked umbrellas as well.
yeah. And for shooting from above.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've wanted to go out and scope out a place when it's where there's a heavy rain and just shoot through the windshield and get that splatter on the windshield along with like headlights and things like that going through on a street scene and just see what comes up. But every time it's raining really heavy like that, I'm not able to do it. So even though I got a couple of places I can do that, you have to wait till it's the right time.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's good to shoot just after the rain as well. When the sun
Yeah,
is coming through, then when it's dry and the sun is shining in the raindrops, that's nice as well.
yeah. And all the surfaces, with especially like a street at night with the reflected surfaces can be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
if it's just rained, or even actually even more so if it's still raining.
Yeah, there are photographers who only make pictures of how you say puddles.
Yeah.
Puddles with light of the neon inside, the neon or other things or oil.
Yeah.
Could be nice.
And there, when I was at Cannon Beach, there were all these washed up jellyfish.
Well, they're fun. They're not so happy when they're washed up, but they have all the translucence that you can look down through.
Yeah. So they're kind of slippery if you step on them if you're not careful. But I got a lot of photos of those, but I still have to go through. Maybe that's amazing. It could be that I'm just being enthusiastic about it, you know. There's one in particular I was wanting to try to show you guys, not so much the jellyfish, but the time exposures. But anyway, that's where I was shooting past 2 weeks. Was in Seattle too, trying to get some architecture shots. So I'm going to start posting some of those things onto Flickr here before long. I got a backlog of flower photos from August. I still need to go through, and then I have all this. And I just shot several.
You don't have time.
Yeah, and also just this morning I shot a lot of photos. So
I'm noticing that the light is getting it's retreating earlier.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of sad. It's dark out here on the coast.
Yeah, and it's also the sunsets later.
Yeah.
Because it used to be you could get to like 5:45 or something like that. You could start getting some good morning shots, but now you have to wait till almost 7 o'clock before that sun's really creeping up. Also, one thing I noticed when you shoot out in Washington State or Oregon, you have a lot more open spaces to shoot. And here in Bloomington, you have to drive a half an hour to get out where you can actually see horizon, because we have so many trees around. So I got some really fun. I haven't even looked at them yet. Sunsets along pastures with whichever the Cascade Mountains in the background and so forth. I still need to get those processed, but you just don't get that kind of this vast scope in my neck of the woods without driving to specific places. Now, one of the things I was going to talk about was somebody was talking about EXIF data in the discussions. And I'm not really sure what's the problem with EXIF data. So are you familiar with that discussion, or why somebody would not want to share your EXIF data?
Well, I think it was Charles that said it's one of the way with that kind of information out there, if someone were to steal a photo of yours and represent it as their own, with that information, they could, they have, everything about the photo in terms of the time and all the rest of it. I think that's a valid concern, and especially if someone is a professional photographer. The question of ownership of images is becoming more and more important for folks. Cameras are now building in ways to kind of fingerprint the photos digitally, even more so than XF data. So I understand what that means for some folks in terms of their professional output. I think it's questionable whether we can do anything about photos being stolen anymore, because of the nature of the minute you put up something digitally, it's kind of, I think John Paz said this, it's gone at that point, and he's kind of right. So I guess if you notice someone at a market selling your photos, you might have some recourse, but I think it gets tricky.
Yeah, my oldest son, he sells a lot of stuff. Not so much now. Ever since COVID hit, he used to sell at like comic conventions and horror conventions and things like that, his work. But ever since COVID, that stuff has kind of dried up. But he had trouble with some online stuff, some theft. Not a whole lot, but people were using some of his work as backgrounds for video games and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot you can do about it, even if you try. I mean, that costs money to hire a lawyer to pursue it.
Yeah. But in Flickr, it's an obligation to give your EXIF data, or
no, you can hide it if you want.
Yeah,
you can do it without.
In when you export stuff, let's say from Lightroom, you can share as little or as much as you want. And then on Flickr, you can decide to keep it public or not.
So actually, then it's solved, or not?
Well, I think the point was that, and I can't remember who recommended that, and this was a way of saying, well, to help ensure that people aren't submitting AI generated images, let's have proof that it's actually shot from a camera. And then, of
Mhm.
course, if someone scans it in, you're not going to
Yeah.
necessarily have that
Yeah, yeah.
data. But in any case, it raises issues, and I think
You
these
know,
are
I'm
legitimate
pretty
issues
sure
around
I'm,
photographers.
I'm pretty sure you can overwrite all the EXIF data. I've never tried it, but I think there's software that you can go through and
Yeah,
batch process images, for
And
example.
maybe it's in Weekly one of the rules that you have to give your exit data. I don't know.
well, that I think is the gist of what it was a suggestion that people share it where possible. I sometimes look at people's XF data because I'm curious about their
Yeah,
settings.
I by
And
myself as well,
yeah,
because you want to know if something is not sharp, what diaphragma he uses, or
Yeah.
yeah. But XF data goes a lot deeper. You can get geolocation data, you can get all kinds of stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it shares stuff, and it's probably good for people to understand what they're doing with that kind of data.
I
So
usually
they can
keep
make a
my
choice.
GPS coordinates in many of my shots, except for the ones right at my house. Not
Yeah,
that it's be hard to find out where our house is, but yeah, if I'm shooting somewhere like particularly in Paris or something like that, I will put that information in there so people can actually see. I
Mhm.
don't have any problem them seeing where I'm at.
yeah, and it
In
even
the
gives like
beginning of
this.
internet, I used always nicknames, but
Mm,
now not any longer because everybody knows where you are and who you are. But
yeah,
in the beginning, I used nicknames as well for, well, I don't want to show up in this site, or I don't want to that people recognize me. That was normal in 10, 15 years ago, but nowadays it's not any longer, I think.
yeah. Well, and I think that the XF often has like even the serial numbers of your camera
Yeah.
and things like that. So, again, for some folks, that's too much information.
Now, related to that, I mean, how concerned we talked about this a little bit already, but what are your concerns about people stealing your stuff?
Well, I'm an amateur photographer, so I'm not trying to make any money off of this. So I probably would be annoyed because it still is something I created, but I don't have my livelihood or business interests invested in it. I would
But if,
happily give people pictures but to friends and family, I do that all the time. But again, I'm not in a business trying to make money off photography, so I can understand. I think people who are have a lot of strong concerns and legitimate concerns.
yeah, but if you are in the business, then it's very difficult to have a job because everybody's stealing your stuff. So,
Well, there's that, and the fact that photography there's just a lot more of it available, and you people with cameras just out shooting pictures and happily making them available. So, with even the market for stock photography now has fallen. But I think that if you are trying to get people to buy portraits that you make, people will be happy with portraits made by amateurs or just their friends and other things. So there's that kind of competition too before you even get to stealing.
hmm.
Yeah, I don't worry about it myself. I mean, mostly I'm just concerned about me get my self improvement.
Yeah.
If somebody were to steal something, again, I agree, I'd probably be annoyed, but I mean, I wouldn't waste a lot of time on it unless it was a lot going on. Now, when I was in the business of having weddings and things like that, and I did my own darkroom work, frequently people would give me photographs from other wedding photographers to copy their prints,
Hmm.
which I wouldn't do it, but that was an issue back then.
Mhm.
So, and I would always, and you could generally tell if it's a copy, if somebody shot a photo of a photo because you can just see the contrast is
Yeah.
too much and all that kind of stuff. I arrived at a technique where you could put a print on a piece of glass and put a flash on the background and the back of it, and boy, it was almost indistinguishable from the original. But I never, when somebody asked me to do that, I wouldn't do it. But
Hmm.
I would do that with my own stuff, my grandfather's photographs and stuff like that, as long as there wasn't any writing on the back.
Hmm.
But that was an issue for a lot of people back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah,
turning up.
the watermarks are not helping any longer, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
what you can do. You can
Now,
get angry, but better not too long.
another discussion, part of the discussion, and I'm told pretty much agree with the sentiment, but I'm wondering, I want to expand on it because a young woman who recently joined it, I can't remember her name now, but part of her comment was, in quote, if the image has a wow factor, then it would be a keeper, even if those other elements are not all on point. In other words, as long as the image has a wow factor, that's good enough for her. And I, I think that's pretty much true. But
Yeah.
I would say that's, maybe you can get, there might be something in of an image that's funny.
Mhm.
It might be hilarious, but maybe the rest of the photo, but the photo really sucks, but there's something funny in it. I mean, that would be a wow element. So I would disagree with in that regard.
Yeah, it depends on what is the wow factor. Eh?
Yeah.
So Cartier-Bresson said, if it's just in the good moment, then it's a good photo. Uh,
Yeah.
that's actually true as well. If the moment is okay and the rest is not so good.
But the horizon is crooked. It can't be good.
Yeah. Now I'll often say, I'll comment. I said, no, the horizon isn't crooked, but I will almost never veto it because of that,
Yeah.
because it's, unless there'd be other things. I mean, that could be an accumulation of other problems too, but
But we've covered this topic a couple different ways, but I think the genre matters. So if I'm trying to shoot a macro shot of, let's say, a watch face or, currency, the kind of things that people sometimes do with macro, you can be rightly criticized if your focus planar is off or if it's cropped poorly or the lighting is wrong, because that genre of photography is all about exact reproduction, at very high resolution. But if you're doing street photography, I mean, it's about capturing a moment, and anything is possible, including things, well, just like the shots that you showed us on earlier. Focus doesn't really matter there. It's about that kind of dreamy, soft focus, creamy color stuff. So to kind of criticize any of those things because, well, you didn't hit it a sharp focus would be ridiculous.
And
So I
who
think the
was
genre and
telling
context matters.
who was telling this, Teddy?
oh,
Was
it was on what
somebody
makes a
who had
photo
some
keeper.
experience, or was it beginner? Sometimes when beginners ask things like that, then
I'll tell you
I
here in a
think
minute.
different than when people with some experience or a lot of experience ask it.
Her name is Alida. And I pretty much agree with her. I mean, I'm saying, yeah, wow factor goes a long way. But I think some people, and one of the reasons that kind of caught my attention with that is that in this group and other groups, there, like say, for example, there would be somebody crying, be weeping in a photograph. And people were saying that because there was so much emotion in that person's face, it didn't make any difference that they were in front of an overflowing dumpster. So I would say that doesn't, just because this person's weeping and they have this strong emotion, that doesn't automatically make it a good photo.
Yeah, you should have had the presence of mind as a photographer to ask your subject to move while they're crying so that they weren't there.
That's right. But if you take the photograph, if you also are stuck with that situation, sometimes things don't work out.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes sometimes. That doesn't mean you should. I think that would be a mistake, though, to submit that as a good piece of work and assuming the viewer is supposed to ignore the dumpster.
Yeah. But there are documentary style photographs that are hard to look at. And again,
Yeah.
that's a legitimate thing to do. And it is sometimes that, the emotion is the subject, and that's what matters the most. But I think the context has to kind of play into this.
Yeah, and it also could depend on if it's a sequence of photos, or if the standalone. If this is the only photo of this person weeping, and there's a dumpster, it'd be different. Like if they had the weeping and it was in front of a tombstone or something like that.
Mhm.
So the context would be totally different.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that's just what it's up to the photographer what they are willing to submit. And sometimes I think some people need to think, well, sometimes you just don't. What is it? There's sometimes you get the bear, sometimes the bear gets you, kind of thing. So other than that, let's see. Concerns by ceiling. Okay, I was curious about what any thoughts might be about how cinematographers work. Like, for instance, a classic film like Citizen Kane. You can look at those images. You can see almost every one is like a beautiful image, almost every frame, every scene. And if you watch generally even television shows and things like that, generally you'll see a lot of good photography going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I believe that, it's almost, I mean, you have, with a movie, you have a built-in narrative because it's a story already built into it. So you sort of have that as a background. But each image, in my opinion, each image doesn't have to be a story.
No.
So a story helps is a good thing. But if you watch movies, just pay attention to the photography often, and then you can learn a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
So what would your thoughts be on cinematographers as photographers, and how you would feel about uh, advising your own photography with what cinematographers do?
Well, I am busy now with series, and I do that because I want to tell the story. So sometimes I make series of 3, and I cannot tell the whole story. And sometimes I make series of 5, and I have double photos in it. So it's difficult to have enough photos which are telling my story, and it's difficult to not double your photos, not telling the same with 2 photos the same thing. So in that way, I'm using it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I think, thinking about cinematographers, like, I mean, I really notice it when the cinematography is really photographing. I think of the Coen brothers, for instance,
Yeah.
or you recommended some months ago one of the Riley
Yeah.
versions with Andrew Scott,
Mhm.
and it's shot in black and white as well, and like every single shot in that seemed to have been driven by a very strong sense of that kind of visual setting.
Yeah.
Um,
Wes Anderson
so
would be another
Wes
good.
Anderson, like I think of the photography book, Accidentally Wes Anderson, which is a lot of fun because, this is a collection of photographs that just kind of have that, like the world is filled with Wes Anderson backdrops. You don't have to build them, but he does, and he films them, and he films them in a way that make them a very central character. So I think, when, for instance, if you're shooting in a crowd and you get a perception of layers, or you can create a sense of space, then I think you're doing the kinds of things that cinematographers do, because they're trying to create a space within which action takes place. And they're very sensitive to that, and they have a lot of ways to do it, including, the like the Coen brothers on, what was it, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? The fact that they color graded the whole film to cast it back in a kind of color space. It was somewhat off, but
Yeah.
actually very nostalgic and very interesting, visually.
Yeah, and in the movies, the music is playing a role as well.
Yeah.
It gives you a mood. When you asked this question, I was thinking of the advertising of Marlboro. You remember the advertisements of the Marlboro cigarettes?
Hmm.
In the movies, there was always the same sound with a man in a cowboy and things like that. That when you hear the song or when you hear the music, you can connect it with the movie of the man on the horse, the cowboy on a horse,
Like
smoking a cigarette.
like Max Steiner, for example, a lot of his music of his westerns. Max Steiner also did King Kong. But oh yeah, and speaking of westerns, you ever see the movie The Searchers with John Wayne? And the opening of that is spectacular. But there's a woman going through a doorway, a cabin doorway where it's all dark, and it opens up into that valley of the monuments.
Mhm.
Just whoosh, just complete that panoramic screen just fills us. And then when it turns around, she's got this blue gingham dress, and here comes John Wayne down this path toward the cabin. I mean, and then what was it the John Ford? You got the whole John Ford Skies thing. Did you ever see the part of a movie, a Spielberg movie, where he was autobiographically visiting John Ford's office, and he's telling Spielberg to look at these photos on the wall. And says, "What is it about that photo?" And he goes, "I don't know." He says, "Well, the horizon's really low. That's what makes it interesting." You know, so he's just talking about photographic composition in movies.
Mhm.
But with the movies, you can have emotion, eh? So with the
Yeah.
photos, you can have emotion, but not so strong.
Yeah,
Or is
and
it
you
like
Because
Orson?
you have people who cry with some movies, huh?
Yeah.
But I never see somebody cry with a photo.
well, let me see now. There's got to be one. And you mentioned music too. If you make a slideshow of images and apply music to it, it all automatically makes it look a little bit better.
Yeah. The music does some emotional lifting for you.
Yeah.
But but it's also interesting, like, so like I mentioned the Riley series, again, shot in black and white. I think about like Orson Welles' A Touch of Evil.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and again, there's a visual nostalgia to how some of these things are presented that is very aesthetically, it's working aesthetically to kind of show you images in a particular way, and then like really heavy shadows and high contrast, all the film noir kind of stuff,
Hmm.
like it creates atmosphere and mood. All of those things I think are very productive to the way in which people are kind of approaching photography. I think it's a good visual reference for people. I think there's a lot more sophistication in terms of like, the doing focus pulling with those cameras is like an art form in itself.
Yeah.
And so it's just really interesting to kind of think of the combination of things that go into those scenes, from the lighting to the rails to the pulling. All of that stuff is pretty amazing when it all comes together.
Yeah, but in the other end, not every photo have to tell a story, in my opinion. There are people who saying that, but you cannot with every photo tell a story, I think.
Hmm.
But so
Not
many
everybody,
images though.
not everybody agrees with me, but I think it's quite difficult to tell a story with photos of birds and things like that.
Or sunset.
Well, that's where
Yeah.
you have a story instead of as opposed to narrative, which are basically the same thing, but they're like parallel things. Because you can have a narrative of a sunset because of the form and the texture and color and what or lack of color or whatever. But it's not really other than the story of the sun is either rising or setting, that's kind of a story in itself. But yeah, that's one thing I pondered over for many years, and I finally arrived at that there is a narrative in those things. Like architecture. What's the narrative in architecture? When it's still a legitimate art form. I mean, what's it supposed to be? It's just structure,
No, if you see the
form.
photos of Ernst Haas, he photographs a lot of architecture as well, but
Yeah.
he does it in a way that you see the story of it. Not everybody is doing it like that. So if I see a building and I make straight in front a photo of that building, well, that's more a real situation than a story.
Hmm.
But he make use of colors, reflection, the light of the day, things like that. Then it's more a story, I think.
Yeah, well, I think story is important. Yeah, story is great. I think it's if you have a story there, oh yeah, go for it. But sometimes you don't have like a beginning and an end or anything like that. Uh, if it's in a narrative like that. And one thing, what I sometimes will read architecture excerpts from Architecture Digest and things like that. And sometimes they'll talk about narrative with architecture. Invariably, it's about the life of the building, how when it was built and what shape it's in, or who lived there, or what other additions needed to be added onto it. That was the architect's concept of what a narrative was, which surprises me. I thought there would be more. And there are somebody that architects that actually do that. We talk more about the actual form of the design.
The building has to have something special because
Yeah,
otherwise you cannot make a picture of it. Yeah, you can make a picture of it, but it's not telling something.
Well, then I mean, it's also interesting. I mean, you can capture the monumentality of a building. You can capture the context of, let's say a beautiful European square with a kind of historical period and maybe even, a modern structure in the midst of older structures. Like, there's ways to kind of represent history, time, cultural reference, all of those things. There are ways, and we've got some wonderful photographers in Weekly who use the structures of architecture in order to emphasize human interaction in space, movement through, one of the things when I've been fortunate to be in old cities in Europe or let's say in Mexico, I love going to a door of an old cathedral or an old temple and just kind of, where you see the wearing on the stone or wearing on the wood and like the presence of human contact with architecture over hundreds or thousands of years. So there are many different ways to think like it's architecture, but if you take a picture of say an old temple structure where the nature is kind of reclaiming it, there's that interplay of architecture, and you can play the line of whatever it is you're shooting, but you can also show the decay of it or the breaking of it or the any other aspects of it. So I think it becomes a backdrop to, well, whatever your intention is in terms of what you're framing. But if you're shooting for an architecture digest style publication, you probably are doing something quite different.
but generally, if you look at the great architecture photographers, it's more about the building or pieces of the building, details.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, I'll have an entire building in a frame, but more often than not, it'll be from inside the building where you have the hallways and the light coming through the windows and things like that.
Yeah.
And I would say that would be, I don't know how you would word this, but it would be a narrative in a way that it transports you, the viewer, to that scene, makes you feel that spaciousness, or like you're standing in front of the building or something like that. Um, and that's, I think you would also get that with a movie too. It would make you feel like you're there.
Yeah, actually, a photographer has the job to make this feeling, to give this feeling to a photo. So if you give your feeling to a photo that's you, then the spectator needs to give his opinion about it and feel it a little bit.
Hmm.
And a good author, I would say somebody like Stephen King, for example, or James Michener, that can transport you into that place. I think James Michener's Sahara. If you ever, there was a passage in there where you can almost like you're right there in front of this camel, and you can hear the breeze in the desert and stuff. Just the way he describes it. So that connection you have between that description, that's all text, and the cadence, almost like poetry, but it's not. It's prose. So I think you think about that as a way to make your own photography
Yeah,
speak in that way,
yeah.
even though maybe you don't know exactly how that is going to work. But if you think about that, and
Well, if
that
you
could
study
maybe
other
influence,
photographers, then you can see that they use it as well.
yeah.
If you look at good architecture photographers, then you can have the feeling that they want to bring you.
Hmm.
So, and well, do you guys have any other any specific photos? You were showing some, Jeff. What was you said you haven't even touched those?
Um, the ones I showed you, I cropped them and I did black and white balance, just kind of got my, my information kind of correct, and that's probably about it.
Yeah. Now, when you do your black and white balance, what do you do?
It depends a bit. Like when, like some of the shots I showed you, they're shot at fairly low ISO. They're out in the city, and I have my camera set so things come. The photo out of the camera is pretty flat
Yeah.
on purpose, and then that gives me a lot of latitude. And so with the particular files, because the camera I'm shooting with is only black and white, it doesn't do color. So what I'm usually doing is again locking the black point, the white point, and then I'll adjust the contrast a little bit, and sometimes then I'll adjust the shadows just to bring a little bit more depth out. If I'm working on images that are really dark, here I'll bring one up just one second. Then I'm probably having to kind of deal a little bit with, for instance, I might be trying to um, bring it up a stop or two in terms of the dark to lift the shadows, but I don't want to create hot spots or distortion, or not distortion, but just kind of I might just amplify noise as opposed to refining the signal of what's actually there in terms of
But
information.
you don't use the actual colors of the red and blue and the green to.
Well, for these files, there is no red, green, and blue. There's only luminance. So when I'm so if I were shooting with a color camera and then converting it to black and white, I'd be able to do that, but I don't have any color information on these
Yeah,
files.
yeah.
So here's an example of one I think I brought up before. So hold on a second here. Let me do that. Oh, there we go. Do you see the whole image?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was shot at 5,000 ISO, 1/250th of a second, because that drummer is really good and fast. So I wanted to freeze him, but I'm trying to just capture the range of this a little bit. So I haven't done much here yet, but what I would like, the problem with this shot or shooting here is that big. This is in a boxing gym actually, underground in an alley. And that big A for all city athletics, there's like I can either uh, have that not blown out, or I can have the rest of the scene black. So I end up kind of playing around a little bit with that when I'm shooting to expose in different places, but I'm generally, doing something along these lines.
That's
So just,
5,000 ISO?
yeah.
Man.
You could clone it out as well, huh?
Well, I could, yeah. And so, again, like there are times when, if I'm really striving to get to a place where like so let's see. So that's a shot that I already adjusted. This one has no adjustments,
Yeah,
right? So you can see I'm bringing up some shadows a little bit
yeah.
and just trying to, and I sometimes will mask in on the people to bring them up, but like the three musicians on the stage, not the people sitting. But it's just a matter of trying to figure out like what are you trying to capture in the scene, and in some cases because there's so much texture here, like that brick wall in the background there is just beautiful. So you're trying to capture things like that. But if I'm obsessed about that um, uh, blasted white in the center here, I end up, I end up adjusting the rest of the picture in a way that's not advantageous. So sometimes you can clone that out or clone over it to address that. But there are times when it just doesn't matter that a light bulb is blown.
But how it is in your opinion now? Is it too much, or
It's
do you
for me,
want to do something about it, or do you
so
accept?
I'm probably going to accept this because, again, when I look at, so, again, what I'm really trying to do here, like, does this show you the detail?
Yeah,
Are you
that's good
zooming in?
detail.
Yeah. So, again, what I'm far more interested in the gestures I'm capturing here and the detail of the slide guitar player there, or the facial expression of the drummer and his brushes. And this bass player was so much fun to watch because again, I'm shooting this with a 28 millimeter lens from the back of the room, and I'm getting the veins on his forehead. Um, so and it might be better if I could have shot in a location where I'm not shooting through people, but then the presence of the crowd is a way of capturing the atmosphere of a place too. So you work with the scene that you have. Now
Yeah.
I could clone out people and things like that, but at a certain point, that's just not the scene anymore.
No, no, not clone out people, but only that white part, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have done that before, but in this case, I probably will leave it.
Hmm.
So
So
that's
actually, you accept it.
yeah. But I do
It's
like
nice,
shooting
nice to
under.
shoot. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's nice to shoot there, I think.
Oh, it is, and one of the things I'm so enjoying is a lot of these shows I'm going to, they all have some very different lighting conditions, and they're often very challenging, and so just trying to figure out how the hell am I going to
Yeah,
shoot here,
you
and
learn a
being
lot.
happy with the, yeah,
You
you learn
learn
a lot.
and you learn and grow.
Well, and but you just learn to shoot in the sense that you don't hold back shooting, and then you can say, well, let's see what happens. And like, you take the shots, and then, in none of these circumstances can I use a flash or can I use a tripod or anything like that. I
Yeah,
just have to be all just on the go.
yeah. While you're shooting, you're thinking all these things, huh?
Well,
Well,
I
and
think
enjoy the music.
yeah,
And
shooting music is hard.
Yeah.
but fun. I highly recommend
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I agree that it's got to be fun because there's one guy that shoots music all the time. That's what I can't remember his name now, but he does a great job of it. And I've been, gosh, as long as I've been on Flickr, like about a year and a half now, and he's improved as time's gone on.
Here, let me show you one other concert shot from a couple weeks ago, just because it's such a contrast to what I just showed you. This should work. I feel like I'm greedy showing you all these things.
So,
All
what
some
would
other
you
cool
say
stuff.
if one of these guys came up and said, "Hey, we would like to get a formal portrait. We want, or like the portrait we could put on a poster or something."
Oh, I'd be thrilled. And well, actually, I like, so this is a band I've seen a couple times now called Chopping Spree. And I was like right up beside the stage taking this. And so I got fans in it too. But so I contact the bands quite often afterwards and just give them pictures because I think they might want them
No, I
or
would
not.
think so.
Yeah, you can feel the emotion here, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these ones are a lot of fun, and there's microphones in the way. I could try to take them out, but I,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
you know,
this is one of those situations where you have good depth cues. If you look at them with one eye, you can almost get a 3D view of this. Combining the out of focus foreground elements with the sharp in the midground and the out of focus background, that really brings in a lot of interesting depth.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then these are two different shows. I went to another show there. But actually, here I'll pop over to like so again, the light, the
Very
stage.
blue.
Yeah, very blue. A bit of what's it called? You've talked before, like with red is really bad. You get that, oversaturated color.
Yeah.
So it's blooming here a little bit in blue. But this is like a 50 millimeter prime lens I'm shooting with, a manual lens from the audience, and you just get close and good things happen.
But you have done in this photo more the blue or?
I had to bring up some of the shadow in it, and then I actually brought down the saturation a little bit because they were spot lit, really bright blue.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to reduce the saturation a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the man's man on the left. He has two colors of legs, huh?
Yeah. Well, that's partly the shadow, in
Yeah.
terms of where the lights hit him. But it could also be something that I missed in that. But there's so many different things happening with light when you're on looking at a stage to try to figure out what your camera is going to do is sometimes I'm getting better at predicting that, but it's also kind of fun to see what I come back with. But so again, so I'm shooting these, going back to the fact I have a new camera. So I've been shooting, all I showed you was with manual focus and everything. So I have shot some shows now with the Nikon, and it's quite interesting because again, I have focus confirmation and other things happening that I don't with these ones. And it's also kind of a fun way to shoot, but I'm using manual focus lenses for those as well.
Now you've used mirrorless before, right?
I have. Well, the M10 is a mirrorless camera.
Okay.
You have the advantage, Jeff, you have experience. Yeah, because you
Well,
have experience, it's not difficult to do it anymore. Because
well,
you know how to do it with by hand. the sharpness.
Well,
So
but it is interesting because I've been reflecting on this. Like there are ways in which having such an active focus confirmation system in front of you kind of changes how you go into the situation. So I've talked before
yeah,
with the two of you
but
about
you
how
know how to handle things.
yeah, but like if you go in kind of set for scale
Yeah.
focusing and things like that, you're just kind of
I
prepared for a
I
different
don't tell that you know
shot.
everything. You don't know everything about it, but you know the rules how to manage a situation like that. Yesterday I had a review with the man in that fair as well, and he had a lot of young people as well to talk with. And to me he said, "Well, what's your age?" I said 71, and then he said, "I don't have to tell you anything about organizing your photo." Because you know how to make series, you know how to handle, you can if you are making mistakes, you do it tomorrow again.
Hmm.
You know you have a frame to work on, but a lot of young people don't have. They do what's in front of their vision, and that's difficult when you are a little bit older, I think. Because it's different when you are a little bit older than when you're young. When you're young, you do everything what's in front of your camera and
That's true.
as easy as possible.
Yeah. I was
But uh, but when you are a little bit older, then you think more how you manage things.
mhm. Well, there's some, I see some really great young photographers, and I think it's a matter like I think some of the young folks who are experimenting with analog film, I think maybe part of that is that they want to develop some of the skills and have a little bit more time
Yeah, yeah.
and a bit less technology helping them. So that's nothing but good. But I was looking back, a good friend of mine, her daughter, it was her 16th birthday, and so she asked me to go back and find photos over the past 16 years, and so I was going back through all these old photos. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea how to focus back then, or like just seeing the changes in how I was taking pictures, and it was different gear, different circumstances, but just seeing the change over time with one's own photography, it's humbling to kind of see all the really bad pictures I take, but it's
Yeah,
also kind of
yeah,
interesting to see a change over.
yeah. In a time, then you can see what you've done before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is intimidating though when you see somebody who's like 17 years old getting these fantastic photographs. Like, what in the heck? How could they? Same like playing a guitar like that. I mean, I played guitar for years, but somebody that's 19 years old, blowing everybody away, So
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Because I
could
mean
just,
the camera is only part of it, right? It's like the
yeah,
other the I think the most important thing is how do you see?
Yeah.
yep,
What is it that you see? And over time you can figure out the gear side of it, but if you don't have a good sense of what you see or develop your sense of what's important to capture, doesn't matter what kind of skill you have with the camera.
yeah. I come up to things very draftsman-like to begin with, and then as I use that as an entry point, and then hopefully then something will be whispering in my ear, says, "Try this over here instead."
Mm.
Didn't always work like that, but yeah, that's my pathway to just trying to see things. So, and with your black and white, now I would argue that shooting it in color and then processing, then removing the black and white in Photoshop would be an ideal situation. But you shoot it, so the only information you have is the black and white
Well, it's
data.
it, it it's not a choice. That's all the camera is capable
Yeah,
of. So, but that's also a benefit in that the camera has a higher dynamic range and a higher resolution than a similar color sensor because it's using all the photo sites, not just, like it doesn't do red, green, green, blue. So
that's right. You mentioned that before to me. Yeah, that's a good point.
every single site
But
is luminance, but
but you
I
have
don't.
more cameras, so you can use another camera if you want. Or not.
Yeah, I can always use another camera, but you're right in that if I have access to color channels, I have the ability to blend more, and there's no question about that, and you can get good results. And so I think you don't no one needs to have a black and white camera.
No.
I shoot differently when I shoot with this camera because I look for things that work really well with it. And to not have a plan B where I can convert something from color to black and white means that I'm going after shots that I think will work really well in just a black and white frame or visual space. And yeah, it's a fun thing to do. I would say that it's always a good thing to like just go out and provide yourself with a constraint and then work with that to kind of hone, the kinds of things that you're trying to achieve. But I love shooting with black and white, I just have to say.
But you never compared it in the same situation with two cameras or something?
I have. I have the same camera. One's a color one, one's a black and white one, monochrome and a color. And I've gone out on a hike with both of them and taken the same shot. And if I'm it's pretty rare. Well, except for when I'm traveling. If I'm traveling, I'll bring a color body and a black and white body, and then I'll leave the color one at home. Some days I'll leave the black and white at home. Some days, but I rarely want to go out with two bodies at the same time. To like it's not about the output exclusively. It's about what I'm trying to do when I'm taking pictures, I suppose, the process, and it feels different for me in terms of what I look for and what I know will be worth pursuing in the space with the monochrome camera.
But do you think the photos with your phone monochrome camera are better or?
In some cases they are. I think you can achieve that, like especially like like the Nikon camera, for instance, it will happily shoot really high ISO, and I'm figuring out like I'm so far I'm pretty happy with the output in terms of the images. I can work with them, but they are different than I get with the some of the other gear. But I'm still learning it, so but I would appreciate it would be fine if there were differences. And then I figure out how do I leverage that in terms of what I'm trying to get. So like I think right now this Nikon ZF with a 60-year-old, 50-year-old Leica macro lens is just a killer system to go out to capture some bees. I'm getting really good. I've got some up on my photo stream now, and there's some of and I even got some moths. I rarely get the moths, where you can even see the detail on the eyes, and that focus assist is helping me with that. So again, they're tools, and it's nice to have different ones to experiment with.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you're actually going to end up with a superior. You're going to get more information in a black and white camera like yours, as opposed to throwing away information by creating a black and white image from a color raw file. You're still maintaining the detail
Mhm.
where you're throwing it away by converting it to black and white.
Yeah, I've seen YouTube movies as well. That's how they can get the information out of it with the color information. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So uh, I would
Well,
I would say that Teddy is right, is it?
well, and then, but there are other things too that can happen. Like for instance, going back to your example of the photographer with the glass in front. You can achieve that in just purely through post-production or something approaching that. But shooting that right in the camera to get that effect is going to potentially be quite different. With a black and white camera, if I go out on a sunny day with really, kind of fluffy clouds and I have a red filter on the camera, I'm going to get a kind of contrast that I can maybe achieve in post, but then it's
Not
not
quite
going
the
to
same.
be the same, right? It's gonna like it just opens up a different kind of color
Yeah.
relationship in terms of how colors are represented in terms on the sensor itself.
Now, one thing you might, if you have time to do it, experiment with shooting the same thing with two different cameras, same scene, and then putting it up side by side and take a look close at the differences.
Yeah.
Just doing the simplest stuff like depth of field, how depth of the field works, or things like
Yeah.
that. If you do some
Works.
exercise like that on your own, you learn a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have done that with these two cameras that basically are the same except one's monochrome, and so I get higher detail. So the key thing I see is like if I have a shot in black and white, there's just more detail. Now I think with like on the Nikon you can do what's it the pic and Pentax the pixel shift. So there are ways in the technology that you can do that too with multiple images that kind of offset the pixels a little bit. So I think you can do that. But so the biggest difference I see is a little bit more dynamic range, maybe two stops and higher resolution in the images that it captures.
Yeah, if that's important for you. Yeah, yeah, you are against the borders of the light, I think, when you are shooting there.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah,
Well, playing with that stuff is a lot of fun. That's part of the whole thing, I think, with photography. It's so much to play with.
Yeah. No, I kind of encourage like, so both of you have these lovely Nikon cameras that you can adapt any lens to. Go and find like one of your old, an old lens from, 30 years ago that you used to shoot with on a camera and just throw that sucker on and just kind of limit yourself to that for a day or a week. And, I think you have to work with it in a different way. And
yeah,
I think it's a good experience.
fun.
Yeah, I've got a low wide angle macro. That's really fuzzy. It's really cool, but I never use it near much. And there you are. It's all manual,
Mhm.
so you're stuck into that mode. But I don't use it as often as I ought to. And it's way too easy to get your own shadow because you're so close to the subject.
Yeah. Yeah, I was throwing this macro extension on my Leica on with a 35 millimeter lens, and it's kind of like there's almost pointless to do except that I can get so much closer, and I can have it in my back pocket and then just pop it on when I'm in front of an image that I want to get closer to. It's just kind of fun.
Yeah, there are other devices too, and where I got one. Anyway, it's a Snap-on. They're actually diopters. They're a lot better
Yeah,
than the
in the
old
front of the lens,
diopters.
yeah.
Yeah,
Those close focus filters.
and those work pretty well. However, you still lose some fine detail with that
Yeah.
if you pop those on another macro. But if you're not worried about the fine detail, you can really get some decent shots.
Jeff, about your ND filter. You have cheap ones and you have
Yep.
very expensive ones. Is it possible, or is it what would you recommend if you buy one? A cheap one or expensive one?
So, I mean, I think a good thing to do is to play around at least to get your grounding with a variable neutral density filter.
Yeah,
However, they're the ones that they're more likely to introduce a color cast, and there's a certain range that you can go before they're totally out of whack. But if you can figure out how many stops you need, so it's actually quite beneficial to say, okay, I need 1, 3, 7 stops of exposure kind of knocked down, and then just buy one that's just a single one and then use it when you know that you're going to get the effect. So I'd say that, make sure you've got a good quality one that's not variable or a couple of them. So you have a couple different conditions that you want to shoot in, but to kind of dial yourself into what you're wanting to do, a variable filter is a lot of fun. Especially down like if you're, taking shots at the ocean and you're wanting to, run a fairly, you want to get smooth water on the waves and things like that, you can get some really nice effects. And again, in crowds, you can eliminate the crowd if you want on a busy day with a neutral density filter and a long shutter speed.
I have an old one, but it has a color cast problems.
Yeah,
So
but it's so easy to eliminate color cast now in post-production, right?
yeah,
So that you
true.
can zero that out pretty quickly.
Yeah,
The problem I
yeah,
have with the variable neutral density filters is that they're they go across. They're kind of like linear. One edge of the image will be much brighter than the other one.
Yeah, but that's where the higher quality ones don't give you those effects, or if you're
Yeah,
sensitive. But I think you'll get generally better quality if you say, this one will cut back 3 stops. You put that on a really bright day and go out and just see what happens.
and you
yeah.
have now filters. They are magnetic as well, eh? So you don't have to screw on your
That's what
camera,
I
but
want to explore. Yeah, because trying to screw those off and on quickly is a pain in the neck.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't have any of those, but it's certainly a smart way to do it.
Yeah, I've got two neutral density filters here. And it depends on if it's an overcast day or something like that, you don't really need to have a 10 stop. Like
No,
this is ND64 on that one and 1000. So if you're out in bright sunlight, you can get like a 30-second exposure, especially if you couple that with a tight aperture.
Mhm.
But if it's overcast day or something like that, or in a shadowy valley or whatever, you don't need that much neutral density
yeah,
blockage. And sometimes you could even just use a polarizer
yeah.
if it's dark enough.
Mhm.
And a polarizer is often a good thing to do anyway, especially if you're shooting waterfalls and stuff like that.
So what is this guy? This is a couple stops.
Yeah,
Okay.
that looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not too much.
And then a variable. Let's see if I make this dark. There we
Yeah.
go.
Oh yeah.
Hope
And
you
what you
can
use
make that.
more fixed or more variable?
I'm sorry?
Let's see one.
You use more fixed or more variable filter?
It depends. And part of it is like, so I have one lens that is, what is it, 58 millimeters, and I don't have a fixed, like how many
Lenses.
filters do I want? So I've kitted
Yeah.
out a couple lenses with a specific filter because I want it for that lens, and then other ones that I can use off on multiple lenses.
Actually, I have two lenses, two important lenses, a 28 and a 50. So,
Hmm.
but I have some rings as well. So
Yeah,
maybe,
step down rings
yeah, you can step up
or step
or
up or
step
down.
down. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can get vignetting, of course, on
yeah,
if you start
yeah,
stacking these things up.
yeah, yeah. I know about it. The longer time you put it on your camera, the more vignette you have.
Yeah. But really, my venturing into neutral density filters came about mostly because I was wanting to do landscape shots, like at the coast, where it's just so bright, and I wanted to control things with especially longer shutter speeds. So I would want longer shutter speeds, not want to overexpose, and then also get the benefits of that on the one hand, and then the second one over time is if I want to shoot wide open, I don't want to be restricted as to when, because sometimes I want that effect even on a
Yeah,
bright day. So those
yeah.
two scenarios are
When
fun
I
ones.
was shooting with a long shutter, then I used it a lot. Because then otherwise you had too much light in it. And
Yeah.
I have some new series about silence. If you want to see.
Oh yes,
Yes,
please.
please. I've got some photos to queue up too here whenever at some point.
Uh, let me see.
Oh, that's lovely light.
Yeah, this is all in morning or evening light. It's 5 photos.
I love the chairs in the bottom piled the way they're stacked.
I did a lot of work to make it straight because it is with a 28 millimeters and
Yeah.
there are a lot of verticals in here.
Hmm.
It looks like you did a good job of it.
Yeah, I tried to make it with how you call that? Lineal,
Linear.
some straight lines.
Hmm.
It
You
helps
like
if you try to get your camera sensor as parallel as possible to the wall of that building, for example. You don't have to get perfect, but if it's off, then you get this twist you can't reconcile.
Yeah, this is a difficult part here. This part. You can see my mouse or not?
Yep.
Yeah. And here is a difficult part as well. This is about you can see the silence. This
Mm.
series.
Yeah, that's good.
The veiling bloom of light there is lovely.
Well, it looks like that's common with all those photos, is that flare of light.
Hmm.
That
Actually,
means
this part here was sharp, but I didn't want it sharp because it's about the chairs. So I made afterwards I made this unsharp. So,
Oh, I love that. It's a ping pong table?
yeah, maybe it's a little too dark, I think.
mm,
I mean, you're really gaining the benefit of that beautiful light,
Yeah, I was searching for the light.
as one should.
And I like this as well. Here, this in the front, all
debris.
this. Nobody is using this table, but I only make photos of it.
Oh, lovely. Is the thing the surface on the ground, is that blue?
Yeah, it's blue. It is black, but I made it a little bit blue.
Okay.
But I think it's against blue when it was against blue.
I'll bet
But
it's is it one of those cushy ones like rubbery asphalt?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
I was
Oh, yeah.
I had an idea to make this photo of a bus stop, but I wanted a bus stop in nature, and
Hmm.
it's not easy to find here.
You posted that one 2 weekly. I really like that
Okay,
one.
Yeah.
okay. It was quite difficult to find, but I made 200 photos of this one in the morning.
Well, and it's lovely too, when the sun is so low and you get those shadows cast.
Yeah, yeah. The light in the glass is working, huh?
Oh, it sure is.
Yes. Normally that would not be a good thing, but in this case, that's what makes the story here.
Yeah. So,
I mean, an argument could be made to get a big box of bottle of Windex and some paper towel, but nah.
so this is the whole story. I only doubt about this photo. Maybe taking out this one.
Which one was that?
That's the fourth one with the this one.
Is this close to you where you live?
Yeah.
I think that's geometry and stuff is really cool. I would go back and try some different stuff. I mean, shoot the same angle and do whatever it is you needed to do to satisfy yourself. But that looks like it has some good potential.
I
The
don't
only thing
like
I
this
would,
car, the car in the background as well.
yeah, I mean, the only thing I would change about that, I mean, I don't think the car works because of the scene. It's an urban scene, but I might suggest cropping it just slightly lower so you don't get the window, like the light being bright there is fine, but that little bit of window there
It's
pulls
too
my eye
much.
out. Yeah, so even just dropping it a little bit so it's a bit lower on those windows,
Yeah.
or
Maybe the light a little bit up here. This
yeah.
might be too dark here.
But I actually quite like the fact that, the car is part of that scene. There's nothing wrong with having the car.
Hmm. But the light here, I like it.
Yeah.
And here. So and now I with a new series. I started with a new series, and this is more about repetition. Let me see which is here. And this one, or make it longer. This I didn't
That's not
edit.
your house, is it?
No, I didn't edit or anything. This is out of the camera.
That's nice. I love how the foundation is moldering away.
Yeah.
So actually, this is not a series about light, more about uh, a repetition, but with quietness as well. Huh? And
So
this is not yet ready. I'm trying to maybe five as well. I have four now, but maybe one is going out and one is coming in.
I like that one.
yeah. So when you go out with your series, like, do you go out a whole month trying to do series photos, or do you do combined series in one shot, or what?
No, I just, yeah, I was thinking, I have 8 series of being in a hurry. Maybe select of each
Yeah.
series one. That uh, every photo is telling me something about a series. And then with that, I make a new series of 8. But I don't know. This I'm not happy with as well, totally.
Oh, I like that one. That's really cool.
No, I'm not because it's not symmetrical. I'm not satisfied with it totally.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
that would be something you could try to reshoot with a different time of day, even, or
So
point of
I would
view.
argue that asymmetry is more interesting sometimes than symmetry, especially when you've
Yeah.
got a shadow imposed on another set of shapes, because you've got the distortion of the shadow against the regularity of the ground cover, right?
yeah,
When the pattern of the shadow and the circularity of the that when those combine together, it's almost like a Fibonacci spiral.
mm.
So I don't know if you could change the angle a little bit to even to make that even more intense.
Yeah. I was there maybe 1 month ago. I think when I go now, the sun is shining differently. Yeah? So
Yeah.
uh,
Would be fun to shoot at different times of the day for that very
yeah,
purpose. So to see that, I know I've talked about this before, but there have been times when I've used the geometry tools in Lightroom to straighten things or level things and things like that. And I have to, I really pay attention because quite often when I straighten something, I'm less happy with it. Seeing some of the kind of distortion or angular distortion or tension caused by how the optic is square or not square, sometimes to me adds more energy to the picture. Now, if I'm shooting for an architectural digest, maybe not, but in many cases, that correction pulls some energy out of the picture to my eyes.
yeah.
Yeah, if I have a lot of geometry, especially a building or something like that, generally I click that A in at least in Camera Raw, where you just automatic geometry correction. But other times you click it and it's off. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays I lay down the series for some weeks, and then I see things, and I change photos. So with this series you have seen already, I think this you have seen, and this one you have seen as well. This is a new one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I love the colors that you're bringing to these. Like they're so, I mean, they're muted, but they're warm. And I mean, this is maybe more cold because of the blue, but really interesting colors.
But actually, I want to say that if I leave it for a few weeks and I look at it again, I see better
Yeah.
opportunities. Yes,
You
I've
have a
seen
bit
it.
more emotional distance from when you took the shot.
This one has a Flickr as well. Huh? So,
Yeah,
well,
that's
now the
gorgeous.
series is standing like this. Oh, this one I took out as well.
So going from 4 to 5 in your series, what
Yeah, but first I
conceptually, how
had
does
3
that
and now
change?
to 5.
Well, I wonder if it makes a difference if it's an odd number or even number, with the
Yeah, they
rule of
say
odds thing.
that four is not a good number for having a series. Three or five.
I try to make a habit if I'm passing through, like, in a store or something, I try to take at least 5 shots because I often will put together kind of an arc of five. I mean, I often there are many more shots, but I try to remind myself to take at least five just
Mhm.
in case.
So actually, I'm working fine on it.
No,
But
those are wonderful.
maybe I go to do my next series with glass.
I can show you some of hey, this is disaster photos of mine.
Disaster photos.
They're terrible photos. They're terrible, terrible. Where's my, oh, I'm not, no wonder I'm not. I'm going to share this one. You should be able to see my bridge screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
These are my neutral density ones here. And I'm going to see if does that go to full frame or almost?
Hmm.
Okay, so that's time exposure, like 30 seconds. None of these are any good. See, what I was hoping for, these sweeping, impressionistic arcs of dahlias, but that's not what happened at all. I mean, a few of them, yeah, maybe there's a little bit, no. And I thought maybe if I tried to get this house in the background in sharp focus, but for whatever reason, it still wasn't, even though I used a 2-second timer for the shutter.
This is 2 seconds?
Well, no, this is probably a 30-second exposure with a neutral density filter, but I thought I had the house in focus. So, but it didn't. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's like it was something bumped and I was using my travel tripod, so maybe that wasn't as sturdy because it's very
Was that
windy.
sturdy enough? No.
Yeah.
Oh, this is better.
Hmm.
More movement.
Yeah.
But this is not bad.
But I'm just plain not happy with those.
Oh, I like that one.
That one.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get set up, all of a sudden there's no wind.
So that's also an interesting one. That last one there. Because the sweep across the fence post and the house looks a little bit surreal.
Yeah. And these are just right out of the camera. I could darken or lighten these, but now this is closer to what I had in mind. I would have preferred not to have that post in there where you would actually get the blossoms
Yeah.
wagging around.
This is a kind of shot where, I mean, in post you can do it too, but like a gradient filter to bring your sky
Yeah.
down would be useful.
Anyway, that's back to the front. Now, on the other hand, where did I put the other? Oh, this one. Let me just do it this way. Now, this is the public library in Seattle, shooting straight up. So I'm not sure. I'm not really happy with that. I think it was kind of fun to get to this, but
I like the lines all kind of diverging the way they are on the different planes there, different
yeah,
surfaces. Downtown Seattle is kind of fun to shoot because it's just so vertical and so
yeah.
many interesting areas.
And there's the public library there too.
Straight.
There's one of the sunsets outside of where was it? Mount Vernon, Washington.
Yeah, you
Not too,
weren't too far from Canada.
not too far. Yeah. There's one of those jellyfish.
Oh, it's an unhappy jellyfish.
This is the seashell. I kind of like the detail. If you really zoom in on this, you can see all the separate grains of sand.
Hmm.
There's my wife against that
Oh, yeah.
Candy Beach rock.
Yeah, those big outcroppings.
Yeah. And there's I had pretty good luck with it. There was no neutral density filter. That was just on a tripod with probably a 2-second exposure.
Hmm.
Very nice.
And that's the main one I thought was good with the people in the foreground.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Very cooperative sky because there were clouds just where the sun is right now. I thought I was going to completely miss the sunset. There's another thing there. There's some more architecture in Seattle. That's actually a stereo photo, the stoplight, which you can't make out there.
Ah, there. I remember that place. Stamp
Yeah,
Alley.
that's one of the gum walls.
Pretty disgusting, isn't it?
It is, and it smells like gum
Yeah.
when you go into that tunnel. And that's actually a stereo photograph too. The middle, if you did this cross-eyed, that juts out. And there's
Oh, I like that. The Space
there's the
Needle.
Space Needle. I think it was a mistake to build that gift shop around the base of the Space Needle. You lose out so much of the structure of the architecture. I mean, you have to get up to just outside the gift shop door, and then straight up, and that's all. You don't get much of more of an angle than that.
Right. Did you go to the I guess it used to be called the Jimi Hendrix Experience building, just about a block away from that?
Oh, you're talking about the cultural
Yeah.
museum of culture or something?
Yeah, they've renamed it since. It's got all these kind of swoopy glass
Yes.
and
Oh,
textured
that's the
surfaces.
Gary. Oh, what's the architect's name? Yeah, he's got the curvy architecture.
Yeah.
I still need to process those. This is in the city building in Seattle. For whatever reason, they've got these orange panels
Yeah, I like it as well, this one.
all over. That's a stereo photo there at the gas works. That's
Well, that
inside.
gasworks area is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I've got all that rusty tubing and stuff. I still need to work on that, but it's a really cool area. That's just a light there at the train station in Seattle. That's again a shot inside the city hall in Seattle, which must be the back door because you just kind of an innocuous location. Now I can't remember the name of that building, but I thought that worked out pretty well on that one.
Works well with the bird, huh?
Yeah.
That's somewhere on the way to Pioneer Square.
Yes. And that is in the complex with the Amazon people. That's part of a building that we got weird sprayed windows rectangles. That's again, you can sort of see my reflection in a window.
Nice.
There's a little cafe in the city building. And that's really close to the gum wall. And I can't remember the name of that building right now either, but that's the one that's kind of up on a pedestal. There's only one good place to get a good shot of that where it's not where trees obscure the view. More architectural detail of one of the Seattle buildings.
Yeah.
And now I'm back into garden photos from before we left. I still need, like I said, I've still got all these photos to process. But anyway, now those are the pictures I'll be going to show.
Yeah, those are good.
Thanks.
Yeah, Seattle, there's a lot of fun neighborhoods to shoot in Seattle. Did you get down by the waterfront, down below Pikes?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a nice area. It didn't used to be, but it's a lot nicer now.
That's why a lot of towns are. They're making a lot of improvements. Indianapolis is like that. Indianapolis used to be the pits, but now it's pretty nice. And Cincinnati needs to have something like that happen. So I think, yeah, like I said, we're actually going to be in Boston in October sometime. I'm hoping to get some shots there. And again, like I said, we're going to be in Vancouver about a year from now.
About a year from now?
Yep.
It's not a bad time to be here, depending on we're just kind of moving into rainier times, but the summer sometimes lasts a fair bit here.
Yeah, my wife wanted to get with the train ride to see aspens,
Mm.
yellow aspens. And they said, our tour guide said, yes, this would be the time to do it. And you could see, well, gosh, there in Seattle, where all the cottonwood trees are all turning yellow now.
Yeah.
I think at some point I saw an 8 miles to Canada roadside. So we were very close to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so with your macro photography, is your Leica lens an actual macro lens?
Yep. Yeah, I've got two of them, and I bought them both like they're both from the 80s, and one is 100 millimeters and the other one is 60, and they're quite remarkable lenses just in terms of the quality is really nice, but they're both manual focus, of
This
course.
is one-on-one or?
With 100, I can get to one-to-one, and or actually I can get that. Um, I bought this one, the 60 millimeter one that I've got on the Nikon, um, from a local place, and there was this structure on it. I couldn't figure out what the hell it was for until I got home, and I realized it was like I said, a built-in extension tube that also carries the aperture with it. So with this, I can get with the 60 millimeter one-to-one. But the 60 without the, or sorry, the 60 with this is really great, but the close focus is really crazy. Like I'm really getting close. Whereas and so with a tripod, it's a little bit more stable. But here, I'll show you one. Let me see if this is with the 60. Yeah, this is with the 60. Um, I'll just share this, but I'm really enjoying just the quality of it, and I find that for macro I don't really need to have autofocus at all. I mean, most of my shooting is not with autofocus, but I'm just getting some really nice shots with these lenses, so I like that.
Very nice.
Yeah, macro will open a lot of opportunities for you for composition and things.
Yeah, here I'll show you a bee since I mentioned that I was getting some of the better bees.
That's a good one there, yeah.
Where's a bee one that I really like? I just went, oh yeah, I'm getting bees, and I was just getting bees that I wasn't getting otherwise. Here, let's go to one of these guys. There's one in particular I was going to do, but I'll just do this other one instead. But just getting, is there one? No, okay, I'll do this guy.
Oh yeah.
So, I can get that when I'm shooting with a rangefinder, but it's easier to get that when I'm shooting with a Nikon.
Was this shot with a Nikon?
Yep.
We've got a nice flow, a nice path for the eye to go through for the viewer. I mean, you're going to, of course, look at the bee, but then the next thing you know, you sort of discover that arc.
Yeah.
And then it sort of mirrors the arc of the bouquet in the background with the stems.
Yeah, so as I say, I'm really happy with how these are turning out. And then I'll just show you one that's not a bee that again is, I think it might be with the 100. Let me just see. This is with the 100. And this is on my rangefinder. So again, I just love these kinds of shots when you get into the detail of things. I really enjoy macro photography.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, it's macro. What that's with that 100 millimeter. Look at that background.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with that kind of with macros
Well,
at 100 millimeters.
and in general, I mean, it gets me in trouble too, but I just die for those kind of washed out backgrounds like that. Just they're just all blurred into colors and textures. Like there's another example.
There's a dahlia there.
Yeah. So I just love those kinds of images.
He is going into your market, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, I mean, I do this just for my own pleasure, but it's really nice because it also oh, this is what I wanted to show you. This is not a B, so this is with the 100, and it's just I don't know, I just love these kinds of shots. I got wet doing this one because I was so far extended over a little pond to get close to these two lilies.
Very nice.
Yeah, those are ones I don't really struggle with them, but I'm not having the luck that I would like to have. But it kind of calls at me to really get close with these details of petals.
Yeah.
And try to get that, I don't know, balance between the energy of them.
Yeah, and it's it really all depends on, you still want to have a strong subject in view, and then the fact that things are blurring out is fine because you establish what's there with the subjects that are in view. But yeah, anyways, it's fun to do. Hard to do on a windy day, as you have indicated.
Yeah.
But these are all handheld.
Yeah, actually, a very little part of your photo is sharp, and that's is working, huh?
Yeah, and you can probably apply that to a lot of my photos generally.
Yeah.
Sometimes
That's where you can use again that rapid fire, just back and forth, and then you can cherry pick which one.
Yeah.
What's going to be the sweet spot of your depth of field.
Yeah.
And I was shooting until the wind picked up this morning. It was probably got as close to 10 o'clock before the wind kicked in, which was so nice compared to when I was in those dahlia fields where the wind was just constant. I sort of had to get the dahlias that were rested up against the side of another dahlia, so the wind wouldn't have affected so much. But
well, the other thing with wind, because I mean, I was shooting yesterday in wind, is you can time it when it like will oscillate in and out of your focus if you've got a fast enough speed.
yeah,
But sometimes it's fun to also, like, if you shoot from lower up and something's moving, you can get more movement. Depending, like if you come straight at it, you may not see as much movement as if you come at an angle or down from
yes.
and then you get them waving a lot more, which can be beneficial if you have a long enough shutter.
But you never use a tripod, Jeff?
I won't say never, but I always it's pretty rare that I'll sometimes take a monopod, but only sometimes. More often than not, I'm kind of moving through the city in the day, and it might be on a scooter, so I don't usually take I will get other kinds of pictures when I take a tripod, and so it's good to do that, but I'm more likely not to do that.
But you like it with wind or not?
I will. It's more if it's windy, I'll maybe shoot something else, or I'll work with it. See, then if it's really windy and I want to persist, then I'll start playing around with my shutter, slowing it down, perhaps more than speeding it up, to see if can I get interesting motion.
Yeah.
Like you were doing with the dahlias.
That's what, yeah. And I would like to do intention camera movement with flowers too. I mean, I have gotten some wide shots, so I'm trying to do things that are like macro intentional camera movement.
Mhm.
It's not that hard to get interesting intentional camera movement with wide shots. But something like that one where you get really close up to the petals, there's got to be something for that because I think that those are so abstract already.
Yeah.
But here we are at 3 o'clock. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to do this again next week if you guys are able to, or anybody else wants to join in. So, and I'm going to take a closer look at the photo stream. I've got one I'm going to post before long this week. So it was great to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And good luck with your camera there, Jan.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your new camera, Jeff.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all fun. So
See you next week.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.